In the chaotic aftermath of World War II, amidst the ruins of a defeated Germany, a young American soldier named John found himself in a situation that would test the very core of his humanity. He was part of the occupying forces, tasked with maintaining order in a nation shattered by war and ideology. But what he encountered one fateful night would leave a mark on him forever and send ripples all the way up the military command. John was an African-American soldier. He'd faced a war on two fronts, one against the Axis powers, and another against the relentless prejudice within his own ranks. Segregation was the law of the land, both back home and in the army. He and his fellow black soldiers were often relegated to support roles, their capabilities questioned, their patriotism doubted. Yet, they served with honor, hoping their sacrifice would pave the way for a more equal future. One evening, while on patrol in a desolate, bombed-out neighborhood, John heard a faint sound. It was a soft, desperate cry coming from the rubble of a collapsed building. Cautiously, he made his way toward the sound, his hand on his weapon, senses on high alert. The war might be officially over, but danger still lurked in the shadows. He found a young German woman, barely more than a girl, huddled in a dark corner. She was frail, her clothes were tattered, and her face was streaked with dirt and tears. Her name was Greta. When she saw his uniform, terror filled her eyes. She scrambled backward, trying to make herself smaller. Propaganda had painted American soldiers, especially black soldiers, as monsters. She expected the worst. Trembling, she closed her eyes and whispered in broken English, a phrase that chilled John to the bone. "Do with me what you want." It was a plea of complete surrender, a statement born from utter hopelessness, expecting brutality as an inevitability. In that moment, John saw not an enemy, but a person stripped of all dignity, crushed by the weight of war. He saw the same dehumanization he had faced his entire life, just wearing a different face. He could have walked away. He could have ignored her. His superiors might have even looked the other way if he had acted on the power he held. But John's character, forged in the fires of injustice, wouldn't let him. He gently loaded his rifle. He took a step back to show he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you," I sighed softly. Her eyes flickered open, filled with disbelief. John reached into his rucksack, pulling out his own meager rations, a chocolate bar and a piece of bread. He knelt down and placed them carefully on the ground in front of her. He then took off his heavy army coat and draped it over her trembling shoulders. He didn't say another word. He simply gave her a small, reassuring nod and backed away, resuming his patrol, leaving her with the food and the warmth of his coat. This small act of kindness was not the end of the story. Word of what happened spread like wildfire through the barracks. Some of his white comrades mocked him. Why help the enemy? They called him soft, foolish. But his fellow black soldiers understood. They knew his actions weren't just about one German woman. They were a statement. It was about choosing humanity when the world expected brutality. The story eventually reached the ears of a high-ranking officer, a staunch segregationist, known for his harsh views. He was furious. He saw John's compassion not as a virtue, but as a breach of discipline. A sign of weakness that undermined the authority of the occupying force. He believed fraternization, especially between a black soldier and a German woman, was an unforgivable offense. John was summoned to his commander's office. He stood at attention, expecting a severe reprimand, perhaps even a court-martial. The officer began to berate him, his voice dripping with contempt. "You had the enemy at your mercy," he sneered. "She was ready for you to do whatever you wanted, and you gave her your coat and your dinner. You have shamed this uniform. You have shamed this army." John remained silent, his expression unreadable. The officer, enraged by his stoicism, demanded an explanation. Finally, John spoke, his voice quiet but firm, resonating with a power that filled the tense room. "Sir," he began, "with all due respect, you're wrong. I didn't shame the army. What I did was uphold its highest ideals." The officer was taken aback. "What are you talking about?" "Soldier," John continued, "we're told we fight for freedom, for justice, for a better world. We're told we're different from the enemy, that we don't operate on hate. That girl, Greta, she saw me as a monster because that's what she was taught. She expected me to be cruel, to take what I wanted, just like she'd seen others do. He took a breath, his gaze unwavering. "Sir, I've been treated like I'm less than a man my whole life, because of the color of my skin. I know what it feels like to be powerless. I know what it feels like to have someone else hold your fate in their hands. When that girl said, 'Do with me what you want,' she wasn't just talking to me, a soldier. She was talking to the man she thought I was supposed to be. I had a choice," John stated. "I could have proven her right. I could have become the monster she expected. That, sir, would have been a shame to this army. That would have meant we are no better than the tyrants we just defeated. Instead, I chose to show her what an American soldier, what a human being, is supposed to be. Someone who offers help, not harm. Someone who gives dignity, not takes it away. If that is a weakness, then I don't want to be strong." A stunned silence fell over the office. The officer had no response. Every word John spoke was a mirror, reflecting the hypocrisy and prejudice that plagued the very institution he represented. To punish John would be to admit that the Army's values were a lie. To commend him would be to acknowledge the moral authority of a black soldier he viewed as inferior. John's simple act of kindness had created a paradox the command couldn't solve. Officially, the incident was swept under the rug. John received no punishment, but also no commendation. It was quietly forgotten by the top brass. But it was not forgotten by the soldiers. The story became a legend, whispered in the barracks and mess halls. It became a source of immense pride for the African-American soldiers who saw John's actions as the ultimate vindication of their own character and patriotism. He had faced down hatred from the enemy, prejudice from his allies, and in a moment of truth, had chosen a path of moral courage that shamed the very system that tried to keep him down. John finished his tour of duty and returned home, not to a hero's welcome, but to the same segregated society he had left. The fight for equality was far from over, but he carried with him the knowledge that in a ruined German city, he had won a victory more profound than any battlefield triumph. He had affirmed his own humanity and, in doing so, held up a standard of decency that the entire U.S. Army had been shamed into looking at. His response to Greta's desperate plea wasn't just an answer to her. It was an answer to the world, a testament to the enduring power of compassion in the face of prejudice and hate. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more tales of unsung heroes.